I'm excited that you're joining us this morning, whether you're a member of Discover Life Church or not. I have a word that I'd like to share with you. My wife and I, Leslie, are the marriage ministry pastors here at Discover Life Church, and we do that through Discover Freedom. So I have a word this morning regarding covenant. So I'd like to talk to you this morning about the difference between covenant and contract. So I just want to start off this morning with a few scripture references. So to start with, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, the word says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Matthew 19, verse 6 says, "So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate." So this morning we're going to talk about the difference between covenant and contract. How many of you, when you got married, really had a good understanding of exactly what covenant was when you entered into that relationship and that marriage? What we found is that most couples really didn't have a good biblical understanding of covenant. They just went into this as though I'm entering into a marriage, and the world views that more like a contract than a covenant. So let's go ahead and unpack this a little bit. So what is a covenant? Let's start with that. A covenant is a promise made with God. It's unconditional. There's no conditions, no strings attached. It's performed or one-sided by one person. So it's unilateral. It's also unconditional, meaning not subject to any conditions, and it's irrevocable. Not able to change, can't be reversed. It's final, independent of any circumstances, no requirements whatsoever. That's what a covenant is supposed to be. That's why God established covenant with us through His Son, Jesus Christ. So what is a contract? A contract is a paper agreement that can be broken. It's the world system that is conditional. So a contract, by definition, is bilateral, having or relating to two sides, affecting both sides. It's conditional, meaning it comes with conditions, and it's revocable. It's capable of being revoked or canceled or broken based on terms that were not fulfilled. A contract is based on conditions that are kept. So look at it this way. If you're purchasing a car or entering into an agreement with someone, in a contract, there are stipulations that have to be met. And if those stipulations aren't met, the contract can be broken. Not the same with a covenant. A covenant is irrevocable. It cannot be broken. It is a covenant that you've made with one person, with God as the center of that relationship. And no matter what happens in the relationship, that covenant should never be broken. So how do you think the world sees marriage today? So I hear a lot of young people, and they look up to the Hollywood scene and whatnot. An average Hollywood marriage is really only about 6 years, which I'm kind of surprised it even goes that long. Younger generations see this and think that this is normal. This is just the way society is, and the marriage is just something that can just be broken or severed based on conditions that aren't met within those two people. In America, the divorce rate is around 50%. So how many of you would think that that number would be any different if they actually had a good understanding of exactly what covenant was? And when they entered into that relationship, they understood that this covenant is a lifetime covenant. I believe that the divorce rate would be much, much lower, if any at all. So the problem that we're running into is that a lot of this stuff just isn't being taught anymore today. And so my hope is that by sharing this, if you'll share this with others, that you and maybe those that watch this will have a better understanding of exactly what covenant means in your relationship. And if you're not married, this is a good time to figure this out before you enter into that relationship. So I'd like to go over a couple of scriptures. This scripture I use a lot. You'll hear it a lot during marriages and weddings. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 10 through 13. It states this: "Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. If they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falls, for he has no one to lift him up. And if one prevails against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken." So what is a threefold cord? A threefold cord is based with these three items: you, your spouse, and God. So think of it this way. If you have God as the center post to your marriage, how do you think your marriage is going to go? What are the chances that your marriage will be sustained and last throughout that covenant? I'd say probably a pretty good chance. When God makes a covenant with you, you have the security of knowing that it will never be broken, that He will be with you to overcome every challenge that life throws at you. The same should be true with your marriage. When you're in a covenant with one another, you have the security in knowing that your marriage can overcome every obstacle that life throws at you. A security in knowing that your spouse is with you and for you no matter what happens. But this takes integrity and honor and your relationship with God to uphold the commitment in your covenant, as well as keeping the vows that you've made before God. Did you know that vows are promises? So in closing today, I just would like to share this. I want to challenge you today, if you are already married or thinking about getting married, remember to add God as your third strand in your marriage. Remember, you're entering into a covenant. And whatever you're facing and whatever the world throws at your marriage, know that you have the security that God is with you and your covenant will endure every life challenge. So thank you for allowing me to share this time with you and this explanation of covenant. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and God bless you.